Welcome back to the garage. I've got my KDX 200 here, and today it's going to get some maintenance. And there's a lot of different names I could give this, but the ultimate maintenance is usually what I call it. It's something that I do maybe annually or whenever the bike needs it. It does take a lot of time, but I think it's well worth it to make your motorcycles last a really long time. So what do I mean by the ultimate maintenance? Really, whatever the bike is, you're going to take it all apart. Probably not going to go into the engine unless you have something you want to fix in there. But this is take it apart, clean it, maybe even paint pieces that need to be painted. You don't necessarily have to do that. A lot of this stuff is just your preference. But basically, you're going to take it all apart and clean it. And in my case, I have several things that I need to take care of on this motorcycle. So this is my race bike I've been using for hare scrambles. And hopefully you'll see some videos of those races coming soon now that I have the new camera. So since I'm racing this, I really don't like how the suspension is working right now. It's all stock suspension. I do believe some of the springs are heavier, but I'm looking into that. I'm getting new suspension parts, so I am putting Race Tech gold valves front and rear. Those are coming soon. And I'm going to redo all the suspension. So I'm going to have the bike half taken apart anyway. This is a perfect opportunity to do maintenance like this. And those are exactly the kinds of things that you can do while you're doing this kind of maintenance. So I'm going to be doing that. Everything else, I mean, you do the air cleaner. I've done that recently. I may not have to do it on this one, but air cleaner maintenance, flush your radiators, clean out your exhaust. I mean, especially on these two strokes. They can get carbon buildup in there. The packing in the muffler needs to be repacked at certain intervals depending on what kind of bike you have and what kind of muffler you have. But whatever it is that your bike needs, do all the maintenance. I do have new tires on here. I only have one race on those, so I'm not going to be changing tires. But check your spokes, check your bolts. Things that are rusted out or broken, it's a great time to check all those. Things like your chain straps and your linkage for your rear suspension. Those kind of things are great things to check when you're doing this kind of maintenance. And get everything greased up. We're going to grease the steering head. We're going to grease the axles. So we'll take the wheels out and make sure that the axles are greased well. This just makes sure that everything runs really nice. And when you're done, your bike will look pretty sharp just because you've gone through and cleaned everything. Even if I clean this bike, which it's not clean right now, but even if I clean this really well on the outside, there's always dirt underneath the side covers and under the seat and on the frame and everywhere, all the places you can't get to. And so this is the opportunity to get to all of those places. So I usually take, if I'm just doing the cleaning part, I'll usually take a whole Saturday to do something like that, maybe even 2 Saturdays. So yes, it takes some time. I got my assistant here making some motorcycle noises for you. How you doing, buddy? So that's what we're going to do. I'm just going to kind of show you how I do it and how I approach it. So the first thing is I make a plan. So right now I know I need the suspension parts. I'm going to change my transmission oil, all those kinds of things. And then when I take it apart, when I'm doing this, I usually clean the parts as I take them off the bike. And then anything that needs to be replaced, I make a list of parts that need to be fixed and those kinds of things. And then when I'm done, I have a list of things I can go and buy if I need to. Hopefully that's not the case here, and I do have suspension parts coming. And then when it's all taken apart, all those parts are clean, and then you just put it all back together. All right, I got the bike up on the stand, and all I have is the seat and the side covers and the radiator shrouds off, and you can already see how dirty this thing is underneath. And some of you may be saying, well, who cares? It's a dirt bike. And you're kind of right, but a lot of this dirt, if you take care of your bike and get this off of there, keep it looking new for a lot longer. There's less wear and tear, there's less wear on the paint and the plastics and those kinds of things. It's just a good idea to do every once in a while. And obviously there's varying degrees of this. Anyway, we'll keep going. All right, so I've got the exhaust pipe off. Plastics and shrouds. I took it off the stand so that I could take the radiator fluid and the oil, drained those out. And then I did a little bit of work on the exhaust pipe. So I'm going to come over here and actually going to take this apart, repack the silencer while I'm at it. dirty stuff. And that, my friends, is why you repack your muffler. All right, we're getting there. Got the left side radiator off, air box, those kinds of things. We'll just keep going, keep tearing her down, cleaning parts as we go. Some of these other ones look pretty nice after I've got them cleaned up. All right, we've got it partially torn down, not done yet. I've got rear wheel out, the suspension, rear shock half out. This rear brake is almost out. This is one of the reasons though that you do maintenance like this. I don't know if you can see this very well in the video, but this is where the rear brake pedal rides and it's dry. It's not greased or anything. You know, those kinds of things rust and either break or they don't work well. So this is just one of those many little benefits of doing this kind of a maintenance is, you know, I get a chance to grease all this stuff, you know, the linkage, rear pedal, steering stem, axles, all that stuff, and prevents things from wearing out. All right, we're getting there. Got the front fork tubes out, headlight off, wheels off, suspension off. Suspension is is the big reason I'm doing this, putting in the new Race Tech Gold valves. So we're getting there. You can see how dirty everything is underneath. I've had to clean all these parts as they come off. So it's real nice when it goes back together all clean. So we'll keep disassembling. I got to get the carburetor off and the rest of some of this other stuff. I do want to take off the steering stem here so I can grease these steering stem bearings in here. It's another grease point. Swing arm, same thing. Want to grease in here, especially with new suspension. You want to make sure your linkage and everything is greased good so that there's no friction messing with your suspension, so you get good settings. So we're getting there. We're almost down to the frame. We'll have the motor out soon, and we'll keep going. All right, we're just about to take the motor out. I just cracked all the motor mount bolts loose, and I'm gonna take that thing out of here. Probably should have taken the Kickstarter off. But out it comes. You can see, hopefully see, I've got the inside of this frame much cleaner. Looks pretty nice. Got all the oil and grease and dirt and dust and whatever else was off of this thing. So it's all washed up, ready to go. Things can start going back on it. The only thing I need to do now is I'm gonna take this steering head apart here. Probably have to take the bars off. And what we're gonna do here is just take this apart and make sure these are greased good, put them back together. And really after that, it's just a matter of putting parts back on this thing. And when I get to the suspension part, I may do a separate video for those, but I'm gonna put the gold valves in there. And as I put it together, everything's gonna get all greased and it'll be nice and clean. So we'll get started on that. I lowered the stand a little bit just so you can see it's a little better. I don't have the fancy socket that goes over here, so I cheat a little bit. I use the suspension adjuster that I have for the lock nuts on the rear shock to get this off of here. As you can see, it works just fine. There we go. This doesn't look too bad, but this is a good chance for me to make sure everything's greased up good and clean up the steering head and the trunk. Ready to put this engine in here. Kind of the reverse of taking it out. Start to get this thing back together. This rear bolt for the engine goes through the swing arm as well. So this one's a little special. It's going to get grease instead of anti-seize, and I need to grease all these linkage pieces before it goes in. Okay, here we go. Get that in here. Greased up the bolt. Lining it up is the hardest part. This is why you don't tighten up any of the engine bolts until you've got it all figured out and all the bolts in. I think that other side just needs to be lifted a little bit. There we go. I got it. All right, hopefully you can see that. I got all the bolts torqued on the motor. Now I'm putting the radiators on. And a trick I like to use on getting these hoses to go on easier on here, if you're having trouble, if they're sticking and that kind of thing, you can put a little bit of either silicone lubricant or just a little bit of contact cleaner or something in the hose. You don't need very much at all, but that stuff, you know, evaporates really quickly, so they just kind of slide on like snot, and that makes it a little easier. The nice thing about the contact cleaner is it evaporates really quickly, so you don't really have to worry about it contaminating anything. All right, so I've got the front forks on. The bike's starting to come back together. I put the handlebars on. I'll have to adjust those again later. A lot of cables and things to still hook up. A couple of small things to clean, but it's coming back together. So I'll just keep going and show you guys some little clips along the way. And pretty soon we'll have a nice looking bike again. Okay, time for the carburetor. The air box. Okay, I had to fiddle with the routing of these wires. I had to loosen the air box and push it in a little bit and get these wires down in here where they were supposed to be, and zip tied them up where they're supposed to be. I might need 1 or 2 more ties, but looking pretty good now. Got all the electronics plugged back in. Got the crankcase breather plugged into the air box where it's supposed to go. So we're doing pretty well. All right, now up goes the wheel. Now that I got the brakes on. All right, putting the chain back on. All right, exhaust springs. All right, ready to put some oil in it? You look in the sight glass and tell me when the oil comes in. You see any oil in there?
Yeah.
No, not yet.